Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. She pressed the doorbell 3 times and kept holding it down. By the time I opened, she was already walking away. I am Jake and I was 35 that night. I knew from that sound something was wrong already. I almost did not open, and that thought still scares me. By the time I stepped outside, my wife was at her car. Her trunk was open and Lily stood beside it holding a backpack. She would not look at me, she just waved me closer. I felt my chest tighten because Lily looked like she expected punishment. I told myself I was overreacting, but my body did not buy it. "What happened?" I asked, and my voice sounded too calm. She shrugged in this slow, annoyed way and said Lily needed a break. "From me or from you?" I asked, and my jaw clenched. Lily watched us both like any wrong word might send her flying. I felt like I was walking into a test I had not studied for. She finally looked at me and said Lily was staying a while. "I cannot keep doing this," she said and stared past me. "Doing what?" I asked because my brain refused the obvious. She rubbed her temples and told me she needed freedom again. That word hung there like a bad joke we were supposed to accept. Lily was still by the trunk and the backpack slipped from her hand. She bent to grab it fast like someone might yank it away. I walked to her and asked if she knew what was happening. She whispered that she was staying with me for a bit. That was the first lie of the night, and it came from her. I asked my wife how long exactly this bit was supposed to last. She said she would let me know after she figured things out. She kept checking her phone between words like she was late already. I felt my stomach twist because I knew that look from before. She had not brought anything else for Lily except that one bag. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it on purpose. I wanted answers before anyone pulled me into some other crisis. "Are you coming back later tonight?" I asked and stepped closer. She shifted her weight toward the car door like she might bolt. "Honestly, Jake, I do not know," she said and opened the door. In that moment, I should have stopped her and forced a plan. I should have refused to let her drive off that fast. Instead, I stood there arguing about words like staying and helping. I think a part of me still believed she was bluffing. I did not see yet that Lily was the only one not bluffing. She told Lily to listen to me and not give me trouble. Lily nodded hard and grabbed the backpack again even tighter. My wife leaned closer to me and lowered her voice as if sharing gossip. "You know how she gets," she whispered and rolled her eyes upward. That little eye roll made something ugly rise in me, and I hated it. She kissed Lily on the top of her head without meeting her gaze. Then she handed me the car keys and told me to park it somewhere. I stared at the keys because they made the whole thing feel official. "You are hurting her," I said finally, and the words sounded small. She shrugged again and said she was hurting either way, so this was easier. She got into the car and shut the door with a solid thud. Lily flinched and I moved in front of her like a shield. My wife started the engine and backed out without looking at us once. Lily lifted one hand halfway as if to wave and then dropped it. I watched the car turn the corner and realized nobody had said goodbye. The street went quiet and Lily stood there breathing in sharp bursts. I asked her if she wanted to come inside yet or wait. She asked if her mom would come back if we stayed outside longer. I told her we could stand there a bit, but my voice shook now. I kept watching that empty corner like the car might appear again anyway. After a while, Lily shivered and said she was getting tired out here. I unlocked the front door and stepped aside so she could go first. She stepped in carefully like she was entering someone else's house completely. I noticed she still wore her shoes and decided not to mention it. I did not want her to think there were more rules waiting immediately. She set the backpack by the wall and kept one hand on the strap. I asked if she wanted water or something to eat right now. She said she was fine and stared at the floor like it might open. I offered the couch and told her she could watch whatever she wanted. She asked if she could just sit for a minute and listen instead. My phone buzzed again, and this time I checked it and saw her name. The first message said thank you for understanding and not making it worse. The second message said I was better at this gentle stuff anyway. The third one said please do not call because she needed space tonight. I deleted that last one right away so I would not reread it. Lily asked if everything was okay and I told her of course. My face must have looked strange because she searched it for a long second. I realized she was used to reading moods quickly and adjusting H. Or herself. I hated that thought, yet I kept my tone light and asked about school. I was already pretending this was temporary even as I felt the opposite. If I had called someone that night, everything might have gone differently. I could have told her to come back and take responsibility now. I could have refused to let Lily unpack even one thing here. Instead, I asked where she wanted to sleep and if she liked pancakes. That simple question was the moment I chose her, and I did not see it yet. The first meltdown slammed into us before sunrise. 1 second Lily was silent on the couch, the next she was screaming. Both hands over her ears, knees pulled up, eyes squeezed shut. No, 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 she kept repeating like she was trying to erase herself. I froze halfway to the kitchen because I had no idea what I had triggered. The TV was on, some ad cut in louder than the show. That was it, just a small jump in volume, nothing huge to me. To her it might as well have been a fire alarm inside her skull. I rushed to hit mute and dropped the remote on the floor. The clatter made her shriek higher and my chest went cold. Hey, hey, it's off now, I said and stayed a few feet away. I wanted to grab her and hold her still, but I did not dare. She rocked faster, breath coming in short, harsh bursts that scared me. If I am quiet, she will come back, she choked out between sobs. That sentence hit harder than the yelling. I lowered myself in front of her without touching her. Who's quiet? I asked, though I already knew the answer. She curled tighter and whispered her own name like it was a rule. I told her I believed her and the noise was gone now. I also knew this would not be the last time. After a while the storm eased and she stared at the blank screen. Her eyes looked washed out, like the energy had been pulled straight out. I messed up again, she mumbled, fingers twisting the edge of her sleeve. I told her she had not messed up at all, the commercial had. She flinched at that, like I had broken some forbidden idea. Once she could stand, I headed for my phone on the counter. My hand still shook enough that I nearly dropped it. I opened my messages and typed fast before I lost the nerve. She woke up screaming from the TV, I wrote, what calms her down? I watched the little sending bar move, waited, and nothing came back. I tried calling instead. Straight to voicemail on the first attempt, same on the second. I hung up before the tone started. I could not listen to that cheerful recording. Lily watched me from the couch, face pinched like she expected blame. Every move I made felt like it was under a spotlight I never asked for. I decided to distract both of us with breakfast. Do you want pancakes? I asked, reaching for the mix without thinking. For a split second, her face lit up in this tiny, careful way. Then she noticed which pan I had grabbed from the cabinet. Her mouth dropped like I had just torn up something sacred. That one is wrong, she whispered, backing away from the kitchen entrance. I told her they would taste the same in any pan. Wrong answer. She shook her head again and again, eyes filling fast. I am not allowed to use that one, she muttered, and I believed her. I put the pan down like it was a weapon. Show me which one you use, I said and stepped aside. She edged forward and pointed to another, hand hovering and shaking. I placed that one on the stove without comment, heart thudding way too hard. It felt like cooking inside a minefield I had never seen before. The pancakes themselves became a whole new puzzle. She watched every step like I might change something crucial. When I grabbed a large plate, she sucked in air so sharply it whistled. Smaller, she blurted, almost panicked, like the size meant success or failure. So I swapped plates and pretended this was all completely normal. We moved through that morning like that. Micro decisions that meant nothing to me, clearly life or death to her. Wrong cup, wrong order, wrong side of the table, each one a near disaster. I matched her choices where I could, faked confidence when I could not. Inside, I knew I was just reacting, not actually understanding anything. My phone finally buzzed while she ate in tiny bites. A single message. She always overreacts, just keep things calm, my wife wrote. No question, no follow-up, no sign she wanted to FaceTime or check in. It felt less like advice and more like a review of a service. I stared at that line longer than I should have. Overreacts. As if Lily had chosen that explosion at dawn for fun. I looked at the kid hunched over her plate, shoulders tight, fork shaking. Nothing about this looked like a choice. After breakfast, another practical nightmare hit me. School. I had no clue what time she needed to be there or how. Bus drop-off, some neighbor carpool, I honestly had no idea. I only knew she kept glancing at the clock and Ewing faster. Do you usually ride with someone? I asked, leaning on the counter. She froze like a deer caught in headlights. I do not know today, she said, voice thin and careful. My gut told me that sentence had been used on her before, probably often. The way she said it sounded rehearsed. I grabbed her backpack from near the door and opened it. Crushed worksheets, a crumpled notebook, random wrappers, normal kid chaos. At the bottom was a thick folder stuffed with forms and clipped pages. Her name filled the top of every sheet in heavy ink. The rest was a blur of boxes and long printed lines that made my head swim. I pulled one page out and saw charts and phrases I did not recognize. Accommodations, evaluations, meeting dates, signatures I recognized instantly. Mine was not one of them. Something in my spine went rigid, like my body understood before my brain. I slid the paper back in and shut the folder too hard. Am I late? Lily asked from the doorway, eyes wide again. I checked the time and did some fast math in my head. We have time, I told her, and I honestly did not know if that was true. I opened my messages again and typed, "What is her school schedule today?" The typing bubbles popped up, vanished, popped up again, then stopped. She finally sent, "Office knows, just drop her, they handle it." Drop her. Those two words made my jaw clench. Lily watched my face like it was a weather report. I forced a smile that felt fake even to me and grabbed my keys. The drive to the school was quiet and stiff. Every time I tried to start a simple question, she braced for impact. "Do you like your teacher?" I asked, and her hands tightened in her lap. "Sometimes," she murmured, eyes locked on the window, body flat as stone. That one word told me everything and nothing at the same time. When we pulled up, Lily gripped the door handle but did not move. Her eyes fixed on the front entrance like it might lunge at her. "Do I walk you in or do you go alone?" I asked gently. "Alone," she answered right away, but her voice shook on the last letter. I offered to walk with her anyway, and she almost panicked. "If they see you, they ask questions," she whispered, breath speeding up. "What kind of questions?" I asked, but she was already unbuckling. "Just stay here," she breathed, then stepped out and shut the door carefully. She walked straight, shoulders rigid, not once looking back. I sat there longer than I should have, watching the building swallow her. On the way home, my phone stayed stubbornly silent. No, did she get there? No, how is she doing? Nothing. The house felt wrong as soon as I walked in. Too quiet, too clean, like a stage after everyone had gone home. I picked up that folder from the table and just held it for a while. I opened a fresh note on my phone and wrote the time of the morning meltdown. Then the commercial volume problem, the pan, the plate, the door argument. I listed everything that seemed to set her off or calm her down. I did it like I was logging faults on a machine, and I hated that feeling. Still, my hands kept typing because I had nothing else. That turned into my private log over the next days. Screaming when the washing machine started. Tears when plans shifted without warning. Full shutdown if more than one person spoke at once in the room. It was like she lived without a filter, every sound and change slamming right in. I also started tracking the phrases she used on herself. "I ruined it. I am not good at being here. You should not have to help me." Each one landed like a small cut, and by the end of the week I felt covered. I tried calling in the evenings, hoping for real help. Most calls went unanswered. When they did go through, they were short. "I'm with friends, can this wait?" she would ask, airy and distant. I would describe Lily's day in clipped bullet points, begging between the lines. "She has always been dramatic," she replied once, then hung up on an incoming call. That night I stood in the doorway of Lily's room and watched her sort things. Every item had a clear spot, every routine had a step, nothing random allowed. She lined up her shoes, then checked them twice, then 3 times. Her lips moved, counting under her breath, some invisible checklist in place. When she saw me, she froze like I had caught her doing something illegal. "You are okay," I told her, leaning on the frame to look relaxed. "I am supposed to do this alone," she answered, eyes on the floor. "Who told you that?" I asked, even though I already suspected. "Mom said I wear people out," she murmured, face flushing red with shame. I genuinely did not know what to do with that sentence. I stepped into the room, slow enough not to spook her. "Well, I am here anyway," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "If you need help, you can ask. It does not bother me." She looked at me like I had spoken another language. Then she whispered, D, you will get tired too, like it was a promise, not a fear. Later, after she finally drifted off, I sat on the living room floor. Log open on my phone, school folder beside me, messages unanswered. Part of me wanted to slam the folder in the trash and pretend this was simple. Another part already knew that ignorance was only going to make things worse. I hovered over the first page, aware that whatever was inside would change everything. I did not read it that night. I put it back in the backpack, almost angry at the weight of it. I told myself I would deal with it when I was less tired. Looking back, that delay feels huge, like a wrong turn I still replay. Because by the time I finally opened those papers, it was already too late to pretend any of this was just a phase. The school called during lunch and opened with, "Why did you cancel everything?" Not hello, not how are you, just straight into accusation. I wiped my hands on a towel and hit speaker on pure reflex. "I did not cancel anything," I answered, already knowing that sounded weak. On the other end, there was a pause that felt like judgment. "Mr. Taylor, we got signed forms from home last month." The voice belonged to someone who dealt with parents all day. Tired, careful, trying not to sound hostile, but absolutely done with excuses. They ended her services, they refused the updated plan, they declined reevaluation. Every word landed like a little hammer on some invisible crack. I turned off speaker and pressed the phone to my ear. Lily was in the next room humming over some homework page. "Can you explain what you mean by services exactly?" I asked. I heard papers shuffle, then the counselor read from something in front of them. It sounded like they were reading a contract I had somehow signed. They listed special instruction blocks, quieter testing, one-on-one support time. All of that was in place and doing well according to teachers. Then we received written notice from her parent to stop everything. "Which parent?" I asked, though my stomach already answered for me. "The signature says her mother," they replied, and the room tilted a bit. I thanked them and pretended I had to check my calendar. "We booked a meeting for the next week," they sounded relieved. "Please bring any questions and any other legal paperwork," they added. Legal. That word dug into my brain like a hook and stayed there. After the call, I just stood at the counter for a while. I knew exactly where the school envelope sat, still unopened. I had moved it 3 times over the past days without opening it once. I kept telling myself I would get to it after work, after dishes, after sleep. It was time to stop lying to myself about that. I took the envelope from the stack and slid it open. The first page had boxes and sections and bold headings everywhere. My eyes skimmed lines about progress, goals, minutes, intervention, all that jargon. Nestled in the middle was a line about parent declined, continued placement. Beside that line was my wife's signature in neat, confident curves. I flipped to the next sheet, and this one was worse. A statement about how the district could not be held responsible. They had done their duty, they had offered support, they had been refused. Parent understands potential impact on academic and social outcomes. That sentence might as well have been underlined in blood. The dates were what broke me. All of this had gone through weeks before Lily landed on my doorstep. She had been removed from help and then dropped in my living room. So when the teacher called her changed that first week, this was why. I realized I had walked right past the landmine and never checked the map. I dug deeper and found another stack clipped in the back. Different header, not school this time, but another provider name on top. I skimmed and saw words like sessions, COPE, attendance, non-compliance. At the bottom, a note that treatment was discontinued at parent's request. Reason listed in a tiny blank line: "We are done labeling her." I called my wife before I could overthink it. The phone rang long enough that I almost hung up. On the last ring, she picked up with noise in the background, music and laughter. "Hey, I am out, can this be quick?" she asked, sounding delighted with life. I looked at the paperwork and felt something inside me go cold. "Did you end all of Lily's support at school?" I skipped any greeting. I did not trust myself to be polite. Her end of the line went quiet for a moment, then she scoffed. "Wow, jumping right in, huh?" she replied, voice turning defensive fast. I stared at the signature and waited, because I was done filling silence for her. She tried to spin it first. They were pushing more hours, more labels, more appointments. "You know how those people are," she added, like that explained everything. I glanced at the line about recommended increase based on need. And my jaw locked. I asked again whether she had canceled everything behind my back. You never came to any of that stuff anyway, she snapped. That one hit because there was truth in it and we both knew it. I had skipped meetings, trusted her updates, believed the summaries. She knew exactly where my guilt lived and went straight for it. That did not change the fact that she had signed these without telling me. So your solution was to rip away everything that helped her. I heard my own voice go sharp and hard, almost unfamiliar. Do you have any idea what these forms actually say? Yeah, they say my kid is broken and they want more money. The way she stressed made my skin crawl. She launched into a quick practice speech. They keep calling her disabled, they keep talking about deficits. They want to keep her in this box forever so they can bill forever. I am not doing that, I want her to learn to deal with real life. She sounded proud of that line like it was a brave stand. Real life does not mean throwing her in the deep end without warning. I paced the kitchen, papers crumpling in my hand as I walked. Real life is also her brain, which clearly needs something different. She needs to toughen up, Jake, she said, using my name like a weapon now. You always baby her, this is why she clings to you. I swear my vision blurred for a second from anger. This was not about me being soft, this was about her crumbling under pressure. The counselor's voice from earlier echoed in my head about canceled services. I heard a door slam and more noise flood through her line, some party roar. Look, I am not fighting with you about this right now, she added. School wants us both at a meeting next week. I forced my tone flat like I was reading a weather forecast. They want to talk about what got cut and what she needs now. I am not going, she answered instantly, no hesitation at all. I made my choice, you handle it if you care that much. If I care that much. That phrase dug in deeper than I wanted to admit. Because part of me had not cared enough before and she knew it. You dropped her here and drove off, I reminded her, voice low and tight. At least own the fallout from that choice. She snorted and something crashed behind her on her end. I gave you exactly what you always said you wanted, she shot back. You love playing dad, now you get to do it full time. The cruelty in that line knocked the air out of me. Before I could answer, the call cut and she did not pick up again. I hung up and stood there, listening to the dial tone echo in my head. In the other room, I heard Lily flipping pages, humming under her breath. She had no idea that her entire support system had been erased on paper. She also had no idea that she had become a bargaining chip in adult fights. That realization just made my anger heavier, not sharper. Later that evening, she wandered into the kitchen looking for a snack. The documents were still spread out on the table because I had nothing left in me. She stopped when she saw her name printed over and over in big letters. Her fingers hovered above one sheet, not quite touching it. Is that about me? She asked, voice thin and wary. I started gathering the pages too late. Her eyes had already caught on a block of text in the middle. She mouthed one word slowly like it had sharp edges. Disability, she read, then looked up at me with her throat working. What does that mean here? I pulled out a chair and motioned for her to sit down. My heart pounded hard enough that I could feel it in my jaw. It means your brain works in a different way than most kids, I said. It means school was supposed to adjust things so you can actually learn. I watched her face for any sign this helped and saw the opposite. Her shoulders curled in as if someone had just thrown something heavy at her. So my brain is wrong, she whispered, staring at the word again. I rushed to correct it because I could hear the door closing inside her. No, not wrong, different, and they have ways to work with different. She barely listened, I could tell. She kept staring at the line about services. Her finger slid to the bottom where the signature sat. She knew that handwriting instantly, she did not have to read the name. She signed this, Lily breathed, swallowing hard. She agreed I am, that word, and then she stopped the help. The confusion on her face hurt more than the anger. I could have lied, I guess. I could have said it was complicated grown-up stuff she misunderstood. Instead, I took a breath that shook and chose the painful version. She was scared and she made choices that were not good for you. I do not agree with those choices and I am trying to fix them. Lily leaned back like the chair suddenly felt unstable. So she thinks I am broken and expensive, she muttered. The two words that had been dancing are. On my head all day landed together. I opened my mouth, nothing came out at first, there was just this thick silence. Finally I managed, I think you are worth every hard thing that comes with you. Her eyes filled fast but the tears did not fall yet. You did not fill those out, she said, pointing at the signature again. No, I answered, grateful I could at least be clear about that. She nodded once, like she was filing that information somewhere sacred. Then she whispered, okay, but it did not sound like agreement, it sounded like surrender. The school meeting came around faster than I expected. Walking into that office with Lily beside me felt like stepping onto a stage. The counselor and her teacher sat at the table with folders stacked in front of them. Thank you for coming, the counselor started, glancing at the empty third chair. That empty spot where her mother should have been made my skin itch. They asked how things had been at home since she moved in. I gave them my logged list, stripped of emotion, just facts and times. Meltdowns, shutdowns, food rules, sound triggers, all of it laid out. Halfway through, the teacher pressed her lips together in this pained way. We saw similar patterns before, she admitted, and that word before cut deep. They walked me through what support had looked like before the forms. Quiet room options, extra processing time, visual guides, regular check-ins. All the things that had been in place so she did not drown every day. She made steady progress with those, the teacher added, tapping one chart. The line on that chart climbed slowly until the cancellation date, then plunged. The counselor slid a new packet toward me. If you agree, we can start the process again, they explained. We need a guardian's signature to move forward, and ideally both parents. There it was again, that word that turned everything into paperwork and hearings. I signed the line that belonged to me while my hand shook over the rest. What happens if her mother refuses again? I asked, not looking up. The counselor hesitated, which told me everything before they spoke. We can do some things with your consent, but full changes need agreement, they said. They mentioned possible next steps, court involvement, formal custody, all of it heavy. I nodded like I understood while my brain raced 3 miles ahead. Lily waited in the front office for most of the meeting. When I came out, she stood up fast and searched my expression. Is it going to get worse? She asked, not even pretending to ask if it was okay. No, I answered too fast, then slowed down. It is going to get different, and I am going to stay in it with you. She looked at the new packet in my hand, at the fresh signature lines. More papers about what is wrong with me, she said, half question, half statement. I clenched my jaw and forced myself not to correct the language right away. Because from her angle, that was exactly what it looked like. Instead, I told her, more papers about what school owes you, not what you owe them. That night when the house finally quieted, I opened my log again. The entries looked different after that meeting, and I knew it. They were still times and triggers, but now they also read like evidence. I was not just tracking her behavior anymore, I was building a record. Back then, I called it being organized. Now I know I was getting ready for a fight I did not even see coming yet. The banging on the door rattled the frame, and Lily dropped her pencil. She scrambled off the couch and ran to my side without a word. Do not open it, she hissed, fingers digging into my arm. Her breathing was already speeding up, sharp little gasps. I knew that knock though, and my stomach already knew who it was. I peeled her hand off gently and told her to stay back. She shook her head hard and clung to my shirt instead. Another round of pounding came, longer this time, louder. Open up, I know you are home, her voice carried right through. Lily flinched at the sound like it was something physical. I cracked the door, chain still on, and looked out. She stood there with some guy beside her, phone in his hand. He had that bored, confident posture like this was a quick errand. She wore a bright smile that did not touch her eyes at all. Well, finally, she said, pushing a hand through her hair. I slid the chain off but kept my body in the doorway. What is going on? I asked, already braced for something ugly. She jerked her thumb toward the guy like a cheap introduction. This is Mark, she said, we talked about him. We had not, which told me exactly how this was going to go. He gave a short nod, eyes sliding past me into the house. So, he started, we are here for her. He said her like a package, not a person. Behind my leg, Lily went rigid and pressed closer. I felt her nails through the fabric. For who exactly? I asked, even though he had made it be via us. We are picking up Lily, my wife answered, voice way too cheerful. She is moving with us, we got everything set up. I stared at her, then at the duffel slung over Mark's shoulder. Nothing about this screamed planned, it screamed rushed exit. Lily peeked around my side, saw her mother, and froze. I felt her whole body lock, like every muscle turned to stone. Hey baby, my wife cooed, stretching her arms out wide. No, came out of Lily before I could say anything. Short, cracked, terrified, and somehow clearer than anything I had said all week. My wife's expression flickered, then smoothed into that fake calm. "Come on, do not start," she said, impatience leaking through. "We talked about this, remember, we said this was temporary." Lily shook her head, tears already forming just from those words. Her fingers now twisted my shirt like she was bracing for impact. I stepped forward half an inch, enough to block the view. "Nobody talked about moving her anywhere," I told her, pulse spiking. "You left her here with one bag and no return date." Mark puffed out a tired breath and rolled his shoulders. "Look, man, she cannot stay with you forever, this is not healthy." I turned to look at him fully for the first time. He leaned against the doorframe like a security guard on break. "She needs stability," he continued, eyes flat on me. "And some firm structure, not this pity party you have going." There it was, straight from a stranger who met Lily 30 seconds earlier. Lily's grip moved from my shirt to my wrist. Her hand shook so badly I could feel every twitch. "I do not want to go," she whispered, voice barely audible. Mark heard it anyway and snorted like she had confirmed something. "See, that is what I am talking about, she runs you." My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "You do not know her," I told him, heat rising in my chest. My wife stepped in between us with her hands raised. "Everyone breathe, okay," she said, trying for mediator now. "We are not fighting, we are just finishing the transition." "What transition?" I asked, the word tasted wrong in my mouth. She dug in her purse and pulled out a fat envelope. "I handled everything," she said, pushing it against my chest. "It is a guardianship agreement, a plan for her care, all laid out." The envelope felt heavy in a way paper should not feel. I opened it right there because I was done trusting her summaries. The first page had my name printed beside something legal sounding. Temporary this, temporary that, lots of phrases about placement and authority. My eyes snagged on a section labeled consent to residential treatment. Cold pressure slammed through my veins. "You are signing her into a facility?" I asked, voice gone low. She shifted her weight and glanced at Mark for backup. "It is not like that, it is a program," she replied too fast. "They know how to handle kids with her issues, it is specialized." Lily made a small sound behind me like someone had just kicked her. "A place somewhere far with locked doors," Lily croaked out. Her nails dug deeper into my wrist, no rhythm, just frantic. "She showed me a brochure on her phone," Lily blurted, words tumbling out. "She said they keep kids who cannot behave for real." That was when my vision narrowed, because now it was not theoretical. I set the papers on the hall table, hands shaking, heart punching. "She is not going to any locked building," I told them, every syllable firm. My wife laughed once, short and humorless, then crossed her arms. "You do not get to decide that," she answered, chin lifting. "I am her mother, I chose this, you only help out." Mark stepped closer until he was a little too in my space. "Be smart about this," he murmured, breath hitting my face. "You are drowning here, we can all see it. You are not equipped and it is not your job anyway." Each line felt rehearsed, like he had practiced them in the car. I took a step back, not because I was afraid, but for Lily. If I swung at him, she would never forget it. "Back up," I told him, voice tight, eyes locked on his. He smirked, but he did move a fraction, enough to break the stare. At my side, Lily clung tighter, whole body buzzing with fear. "Here is the deal," my wife said, picking up the papers again. "You sign these, we drive her to intake tonight, she gets help. Or you refuse, and I take her anyway under medical advice." She tapped a section near the bottom that mentioned physician recommendation. "This is happening, Jake, with you or without you." My stomach dropped, but my anger stayed hot. "What doctor wrote that?" I asked, pointing at the line. "Someone who actually understands her diagnosis," she replied, eyes flashing. I recognized the name and my heart sank even more. The same doctor who had discharged her from outpatient and flagged noncompliance. Lily tugged my arm, so I bent toward her. "Please do not let them take me there," she whispered. Voice shredded. "I will try harder here, I promise I will not mess up." Her words broke on the last part, like her voice could not carry it. I felt something inside me click into place that would not move again. I reached for my phone and unlocked it with slippery fingers. "Who are you calling?" my wife snapped, eyes narrowing. "An attorney," I answered, thumb already finding the contact a coworker had recommended. "Right now," she scoffed, "come on, stop being dramatic." I hit call anyway and put it on speaker on the hall table. It went to voicemail, of course, because that is how these days go. I left a message that probably sounded unhinged. Hi, this is urgent. My wife's trying to sign my stepkid into a locked program tonight. I have documents in front of me and a terrified minor in my house. I need to know what my rights are and what I can refuse. My wife stared at the phone like it had insulted her personally. This is exactly what I mean, she said through clenched teeth. You make everything dramatic and then nothing gets done. Meanwhile, she is spiraling and we waste another month pretending. Mark nodded along, arms folded, playing the solid partner. You walked out, I shot back, heat shaking my voice. You dropped her and vanished, now you appear with a stranger and a pen. You want me to trust your plan for her after that. Her eyes flashed, and for a second I saw something close to panic. Then it hardened into anger again. Anger was easier for her. If you block this and she hurts herself later, that is on you. That sentence landed like a punch straight to the ribs. She knew exactly where my fear lived and pushed with both hands. I closed my eyes for a second, trying to breathe around it. Lily's quiet sniffling behind me kept me anchored. Mark stepped forward again, holding out the pen this time. Man, just sign, let the professionals take over. He sounded almost bored now, like this was inevitable. This is bigger than your pride, you know that. I looked at the pen, then at Lily, and made my choice. No, I said, and my voice finally felt solid. I am not signing anything that hands her to strangers tonight. If you think she needs a higher level of care, we do this legally. We schedule evaluations, we get neutral opinions, we do not shove her in a car. My wife's face went red in patches. You do not have legal custody, she snapped, fingers tightening around the envelope. You are risking everything for a kid that is not even yours. That last part hit like a slap, and she knew it. I felt my throat burn, but not from shame this time. From how wrong that sentence felt in my bones. She lives here, I answered, pointing at the floor. School calls me, doctors call me, she sleeps down the hall. If you drag her out screaming, I will call the police. I will tell them her mother tried to dump her here and now wants her gone again. Silence fell for a beat so thick I could hear my own pulse. Mark's jaw flexed and he took one more half step in. You would really get cops involved, he asked, almost amused. If you cross that door with her like this, yes, I replied. Lily's breath hitched, but she did not let go of my arm. I think she knew this was the line too. My wife looked from me to Lily, then to the papers. She realized pretty quickly this scene could blow up beyond her control. Fine, she spat, stuffing the envelope back into her bag. Keep her, deal with the fallout, I am done wrangling with you. She turned on her heel and stalked toward the driveway. Mark lingered another second, eyes on me like he wanted one last swing. She will come around, he muttered, chin jerking toward my wife. You will not last, he added, gaze dropping to Lily. Kids like that burn people out. Then he followed her to the car without waiting for an answer. We watched from the doorway as they climbed in. Lily held her breath the whole time, body wired tight. The engine roared, tires rolled, the car turned and disappeared down the street. She waited a long second, then another, then finally exhaled in a shaky rush. Am I staying? She asked like it could still flip. I closed the door and locked it more out of instinct than need. You are staying, I told her, meeting her eyes so she knew I meant it. She searched my face like she was looking for cracks or lies. You will not send me to that place, she whispered, needing it repeated. I will fight that with everything I have, I answered, and I knew I had just promised her more than a calm life. That night, I spread the leftover copies of those forms across the table. Highlighter marks from her, little notes in the margins, dates circled. I took photos of every page and emailed them to the attorney's office. Then I opened my worn-out notes on my phone and added one more entry. Today she picked a side, I wrote, and I picked her, and now there is no going back. The woman at my table clicked her pen and asked if I understood the word neglect. Her badge was on a lanyard between us, right beside my notes. I stared at that word like it might suddenly change meaning. Lily sat in the hallway on a chair, twisting a bracelet. I had called for help, and now I was scared they would take her. Walk me through last week again, the caseworker said, eyes steady. Her name was Morgan, and she spoke like someone used to bad stories. I slid the folder toward her, pages already creased from my grip. She tried to move Lily into a residential program without warning, I said. Same day, same hour, with papers and a new boyfriend in my doorway. Morgan flipped pages fast, stopping at the one with the doctor's name. You recorded a voicemail for an attorney that night, she noted. You also emailed these forms with a message about being pressured. Hearing my own words read back out loud made me feel exposed. I nodded anyway because this was the hill I had picked. She tapped the section that mentioned parent request for higher level care. Did anyone explain what sort of facility this was, she asked. Not really, I answered throat tight. She called it a program. Morgan opened a tablet and pulled up something on the screen. These centers lock doors, she said quietly. They are not summer camp. That line hit me like cold water. I had guessed, but hearing it confirmed made my stomach flip. Morgan turned the tablet so I could glance at the brochure. Words like intensive and secure filled the first paragraph. Average stay 6 to 9 months, she added, watching my reaction closely. She wanted her gone tonight, I said, voice lower now. She told me if I refused, she would take Lily anyway. I heard my own anger again, buzzing under every word now. Morgan wrote something down that I could not see from my chair. Okay, she said, so you blocked that move and called legal. She set the pen down and finally looked tired. Before I talk to Lily, I need to ask something blunt. Why did you wait this long to ring us, she asked. Right there was my shame, spoken out loud in my kitchen. I breathed out slow because there was no easy answer. I could have dodged it. Blamed confusion, blamed work, blamed anything except myself. Instead, I forced the actual thing out of my mouth. I trusted my wife to handle her care, I said. I missed meetings, I did not read forms, I wanted peace. Morgan watched my face through that whole messy confession. Thank you for not sugarcoating that, she finally said. Your honesty helps, but it does not erase risk. That last part stung, even though I knew it was fair. Right now we are focused on what happens next. She stood and walked to the doorway, then stopped. I want to speak with Lily alone for a while, she said. My chest tightened, but I knew that was standard. I stepped into the living room and pretended to tidy up. Every word through that hallway felt like it vibrated in the air. How long have you been staying here? Morgan asked gently. Lily answered something too soft for me to catch. I heard Morgan ask, do you feel safe in this house? There was a pause that lasted way too long for my nerves. Here, yes, Lily finally answered, voice a little louder. Morgan kept going, calm, patient, steady. Tell me about time with your mom before you stayed here. Chairs creaked, bracelet clicked, tiny sounds that filled the gaps. She left a lot, Lily said, that part clear enough. Sometimes overnight, sometimes with Mark, sometimes she just texted instructions. My throat burned while I listened because I had not known that. Who made your meals then? Morgan asked, still calm but firmer. Mostly me, Lily replied, like that was nothing unusual. If I kept things clean, she did not get mad later. I pressed my hand into the counter to stay grounded. Morgan's tone shifted, still gentle but with an edge now. Did you know about the place she wanted to take you? She asked. She showed me pictures, Lily answered, breathing quickening a bit. She said there are locked doors and lots of rules and visiting days. The phrase visiting days hit me like a punch to the chest. What did she tell you about why? Morgan asked. I heard papers rustle as Lily moved in her seat. She said I am too much work for real life, Lily said. She said if I go there, everyone else's life gets easier. Something inside me cracked at that sentence, I am not going to lie. Morgan came back into the room a few minutes later. Lily trailed behind her, shoulders hunched, hands in her sleeves. She sat at the edge of the couch and scanned my face. I told, she whispered just loud enough for me to catch. I nodded once and tried to pour reassurance into that small gesture. Morgan took the chair again and folded her hands. I have enough to open a formal case, she said. My stomach twisted at that even though I had expected it. This does not automatically mean removal from your care, she added. It does mean we will look at everything, including legal custody. She pulled out another form, shorter this time, more direct. This is a temporary safety plan if you agree to it, she explained. It places her with you as primary caregiver while we investigate. My heart thudded at the phrase places her with you. I looked at Lily, who was glued to every word. What does that mean for her mother? I asked, voice careful. Morgan glanced at her notes and chose each phrase with precision. Contact should be supervised until we get clearer information, she said. We will inform her of that restriction and document any reaction. I pictured that incoming storm and almost winced. I signed where she pointed, initials here, full signature there. Lily watched the pen move with this intense focus. Does that mean I did something wrong? She asked suddenly. Morgan turned toward her, face softening. It means grown-ups need to fix some things, she answered. You did the right thing by talking. My phone buzzed on the table before we finished. The attorney finally called back, timing almost too perfect. I put it on speaker at Morgan's nod, hands a little unsteady. He introduced himself, voice sharp and direct like he handled chaos daily. Bring me everything, he said after a quick summary. There are serious issues here. Morgan listened, then broke in politely. Just so you know, our department already opened a file, she said. Your client currently has a safety plan placing the child with him. Hearing her say it like that made it feel more real. The attorney hummed, then shifted tone slightly. Has the mother been informed of the investigation yet? He asked. Not yet, that is my next stop, Morgan answered. Expect pushback. She tried to move the child off the board quietly. That phrase, off the board, made my skin crawl. We all knew this was not about one impulsive night anymore. After the call, Morgan packed up her materials. I will schedule a home assessment soon, she said. Until then, keep documenting, keep school in the loop, keep routines steady. Then she looked right at me for a long second. And do not agree to any private side deals with her. When the door closed behind her, the house felt too still. Lily hovered near the couch, torn between relief and guilt. Are they mad at Mom? She asked after a few breaths. They are concerned, I answered, trying to keep it balanced. Concerned means they want to make sure you are safe, no matter what. She nodded like that made partial sense and sank down. Will she know what I told? She asked, voice shaking. I hated that I could not give her a clean answer. She might guess, I said, but you were honest and that matters. She stared at her hands, thumb rubbing that same bracelet. What if she hates me now? She whispered. There it was, the fear that had been sitting under everything. I cannot promise how she will react, I admitted. But I can promise you are not responsible for her choices. That felt weak compared to what she deserved, but it was true. Later that night, I checked my email again. There was a new message from the attorney with attachments. He had pulled records already, faster than I expected. One letter from the doctor jumped out immediately. In it, my wife described Lily as a lifelong burden and requested permanent placement options. I read that sentence 3 times until the words blurred. She had not just panicked in the moment, she had planned. This was not a snap decision at my front door. This was weeks, maybe months, of lining up ways to be done. Realizing that made me feel both furious and stupid. The last attachment was a draft motion he planned to file. He wanted temporary legal authority for me regarding healthcare and school. To prevent unilateral decisions that increase risk to the child, it said. I stared at that line, feeling more terrified and more resolved at once. I hit reply and wrote one short line back. Do it, I typed. I am all in now. Lily's hand slipped out of mine when her mother walked in. We were already seated at the long table in front. She breezed past us in heels, perfume strong enough to sting. Her eyes went over me, straight to Morgan like I was furniture. Across from us, her attorney spread out a neat stack of folders. Mine leaned in and whispered that everything was already filed. Today is about the temporary order, he murmured, pen tapping. Once it is on record, she cannot move Lily anywhere alone. The judge entered fast, no ceremony, no small talk. Everyone stood, then sat, chairs scraping louder than my heartbeat. He glanced at the documents, then at each of us in turn. Let us be clear, he started, we are here about one child's safety. He asked who had been caring for her day to day. I raised my hand before my brain could overthink it. Me, I answered, voice drier than it sounded in my head. My wife looked away toward the wall like this was embarrassing. Her attorney spoke first when invited. He painted her as a stressed parent seeking higher care. He used words like overwhelmed and unsupported and misunderstood needs. Every line nudged blame toward me for resisting a treatment recommendation. I felt my shoulders climb toward my ears with every sentence. Part of me wanted to jump in and shout rebuttals. My lawyer tapped my arm once, short and sharp, stay quiet. Your turn is coming, he whispered, not looking away from the judge. Then Morgan stepped up with her thin folder. She did not talk long, but every word cut deeper. She described the surprise facility attempt, the lack of notice. She added the doctor letter that used the phrase permanent placement options. When she mentioned Lily describing herself as too much work, the room shifted. Even the judge's face tightened for a second before going neutral again. He flipped through the stack in front of him, pages snapping. "Ms. Taylor," he addressed her finally, "did you tell your daughter that?" She crossed her legs and gave a tight little half shrug. "I may have said things when I was frustrated," she answered. "I am allowed to be human, this has been exhausting." Her eyes shone at the right moment, just enough to look wounded. "Did you discuss the residential program with the other legal guardian?" The judge's gaze moved from her to me, then back. She shifted in her seat, bracelet clinking against the table. "He never came to appointments, Your Honor. I did what the doctor recommended." My attorney stood, straightened his tie, and finally stepped in. "Respectfully, Your Honor, that is not what the records show." He read out the line about financial strain and lifelong burden. He highlighted the part where she requested information on locked facilities. I watched her flinch at her own words being quoted. She cut in with, "I was venting, not filing a formal request." The judge held up a hand, and the room quieted instantly. "Your venting reached the level of documented planning," he replied. Then came the part I had dreaded. "Is the child present?" the judge asked, looking toward the back. Lily sat with a staff member by the door, knees shaking. Her eyes flew to mine like a trapped animal. "I would like to ask a few simple questions," he went on. My stomach twisted, but I did not object. I could not. Lily walked up slowly, every step measured, shoulders tense. She perched on the edge of the witness chair, feet not touching the floor. He softened his voice for her, which helped a little. "Do you know why we are all here today?" he asked. She glanced at me once, then fixed her gaze on his tie. "Because they want to know where I am supposed to live," she answered. "How long have you been staying with your stepfather?" She counted under her breath, lips moving, fingers ticking days. "A while," she said, then added the actual number precise. "In that time, have you gone to school regularly and eaten daily meals?" Her answer came quicker. "Yes," she said, hands gripping the sides of the chair. "When something goes wrong, who helps you figure it out?" She did not hesitate on that one either. "Him," she said, nodding toward me, voice steady now. Her mother shifted loudly, chair scraping in protest. The judge glanced her way once, then refocused on Lily. "Do you feel physically safe in his home?" She swallowed, shoulders dropping a fraction. "Yes," she replied, sounding smaller on that one word. "And with your mother?" he asked, tone still even. Lily's throat worked, but nothing came out for a solid few seconds. "Sometimes," she finally whispered, and the room felt tighter. He did not push for examples, not right then. "Thank you," he said instead. "You answered clearly, and that helps." She looked stunned that it was already over. As she walked back to her seat, our eyes met. There was a question in her face, almost a plea. I tried to pour every promise I had into a single nod. Honestly, I do not know if it worked in that moment. After closing remarks, the judge leaned back and folded his hands. "This is not a final custody trial," he reminded everyone. "However, I cannot ignore the documented attempt at abrupt placement." My lungs held that sentence like they were waiting for the drop. He ruled that educational and medical authority would shift to me short term. She would retain legal status, but with restricted power for decisions. Any change in placement would require either joint sign-off or court review. He also ordered supervised contact for her until the investigation closed. Her attorney started to argue, but the judge cut him off. "I am not punishing your client," he said, tone still calm. "I am protecting a vulnerable child while adults sort themselves out." The gavel came down with a sharp crack that echoed in my ribs. Outside the courtroom, she caught up with me near the elevators. Her face had gone from polished to raw in under 5 minutes. "You really did it," she hissed, stepping into my space. "You turned me into the villain to look like some hero." People walked past pretending not to listen. Lily stood a few feet away with Morgan, eyes wide. "I told the truth with paperwork backing it," I answered. "I did not have to exaggerate anything, your actions were enough." She laughed, a hard, bitter sound that did not match her expression. "You think she will thank you for this later," she snapped. "Wait until she is older and hates you for ruining us." For a second, the fear behind that sentence almost grabbed me. She will hate someone either way, I said slower now. She can hate me for keeping her safe and present. Or she can hate you for shipping her off and disappearing. I watched that land and watched her push it away just as fast. You chose a kid that does not even share your blood, she threw out. You threw your marriage away to save face in front of strangers. There it was, the real wound, the part about me leaving her. I knew if I reached for that old pattern, I could still cave. Instead, I looked over at Lily and made my decision out loud. I chose the one person in this hallway who did not create this mess. That is the only thing I am sure of right now. She stared for another beat, then turned on her heel and walked. She almost made it to the exit before spinning back. Do not worry, she called over her shoulder, eyes bright. You want her, you can keep her, I am done chasing disaster. Then she vanished into the crowd, leaving that sentence buzzing between us. The next months were not some cozy montage. Lily still had days where sound swallowed her whole. We still fought over tiny schedule changes that seemed harmless to me. I still ended plenty of nights staring at the ceiling wondering if I had destroyed everything. But there were new things too. She stuck drawings on her bedroom door, one more every week. She started correcting teachers when they dismissed her accommodations. I have that in writing, she told one, voice shaking but steady enough. Therapy sessions restarted with people who actually listened. They spoke to her directly instead of through me. She slowly stopped using words like broken and expensive about herself. She started saying overwhelmed and overloaded instead, which is still heavy but human. Our routines hardened into a strange little rhythm. We planned transitions out loud before they hit. She picked which brand of cereal so we did not repeat old pan issues. I learned that giving her a heads up was not spoiling her, it was survival. Contact with her mother became a scheduled event instead of a random storm. Sometimes she showed up for the supervised visits, sometimes she sent excuses. On the days she came, she was overly bright, jokes a little forced. Lily would come home wrung out, eyes empty, shoulders stiff. One night after a visit, Lily knocked on my bedroom door. She hovered in the doorway, twisting the hem of her shirt. If she decides I am too much again, do I go to that place? She asked. The way she said that place told me it still lived in her head. No, I answered quicker than I could think, heart pounding. Nobody can sign you there behind your back anymore. We would have to argue in front of a judge first. Would you fight? She pushed, eyes locked on me. I did not dress it up. Until I have nothing left, I said and meant it. She studied my face for so long I almost squirmed. Then she gave this small nod like she had just filed something important away. The divorce papers came in the mail halfway through that year. My lawyer called to confirm I had seen them. She agreed not to contest your guardianship order, he informed me. In exchange, you stop pushing for anything severe on her record. I read the pages on the counter while Lily finished homework. My hands shook a little on the spots where my signature belonged. This was it, the official line between what we were and what we are. I signed every page, then stared at the stack for a long time. Is that about me again? Lily asked from the table. Part of it, I answered, because lying had never worked anyway. It is also about me and her not being married anymore. She nodded, like that had been true in her head for months already. Does that mean you can never leave now? She asked slowly. That one hooked right under my ribs. I knew I could not promise immortality or perfection. But I could promise something else. It means if I leave, it will not be from you, I said. It will be because I got hit by a bus or something stupid. Not because you are too much or not enough. Her mouth twitched, like that answer did not solve everything but helped. A few weeks later, she did something that still hits me when I think about it. I was doing dishes, lost in my own head. Replaying court lines. She walked up, put a sticky note on the cabinet and walked away. On it, in her uneven handwriting, were 4 words. Thank you for choosing me. I stood there with wet hands and that note in front of my face. All the court words, all the reports, all the angry texts faded for a second. It did not erase the damage, it did not magically fix her wounds. But it was proof that she had noticed the fight and that mattered. So yeah, I lost a wife, a version of my life, and any illusion that love is tidy. I gained a kid who checks the locks twice and still asks if she is safe. I learned that choosing her once was not the end, it was the start. Every day after that, I have to keep choosing her, and honestly, I do not regret it for a second.